DNA is all around us. For each human being, all the strands stretched out meeting end to end would stretch twice the diameter of the solar system. Whilst this may seem like a very large amount, scientists still know very little about the structure of DNA. It took the knowledge and expertise of 4 scientists to discover the structure of DNA, a structure that we still use today. DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, is composed of 2 sugar phosphate strands spun in a double helix frame that looks similar to a twisted ladder. Each rung on this ladder can have a base of thymine, adenine, guanine, or cytosine. The resulting sequence of bases forms genes that we know and love. Before 1953, chemists knew DNA chains could form, but they didn't know how many chains there were, how they arranged, how chains bonded to each other, and if the bases were at the centre of the molecule or were on the outside. However, this was all about to change due to the several scientific breakthroughs regarding the structure of DNA. Maurice Wilkins, one of the scientists involved in the discovery of the structure of DNA, studied biological molecules like DNA and viruses using a variety of microscopes. He eventually began using X-rays to produce images of DNA molecules. The X-ray images produced by him and Rosalind Franklin led to the suggestion by James Watson and Francis Crick of the 3-dimensional helical nature of DNA. Wilkins shared the Nobel Prize in 1962 of Physiology or Medicine with James Watson and Francis Crick. Notice how Rosalind Franklin is not included. We'll come back to that later. Rosalind Franklin was the least recognised of the scientists involved in the discovering of the structure of DNA. In 1951, Franklin was offered a 3-year research scholarship at King's College in London, where she set to improve the X-ray crystallography lab. However, Maurice Wilkins was already working there and assumed Franklin was hired as his lab assistant, a rocky start to a relationship that never really got any better due to Rosalind's fierce personality and agenda progress in her field of work being conducted in Wilkins' lab. The last 2 scientists are often most credited for the discovery of the structure of DNA, are James Watson and Francis Crick. Crick was very interested in how genetic information was communicated and believed DNA could be the key, although he did not begin actively researching it until Watson's arrival at the Cavendish Laboratory in Cambridge. Using combined experimental data from both Rosalind Franklin and Maurice Wilkins, Watson and Crick deduced the 3-dimensional helical structure of DNA. Watson and Crick used cardboard cutouts representing the 4 bases and other nucleotide subunits. They shifted molecules around on their desks as though putting together a puzzle. It was in 1951 that Watson went to King's College to hear Franklin's preliminary report on her photographs of DNA. Although Franklin's research was in its early stages and Watson couldn't remember all of the information from her report, he felt that the photograph suggested that DNA should be in a helix but have 2 or 3 or 4 strands. Crick and Watson's first model was a triple helix with the bases on the outside of the molecule. The sugar phosphate backbones ran down the centre, with the phosphate groups on each chain bound to one another by magnesium ions. Crick and Watson hoped that the lower water content of the molecule would mean magnesium ions were in abundance. This theory was then red-carded by Rosalind Franklin, stating the model had not matched evidence supported in her X-ray images. Meanwhile, at King's College, Franklin made an amazing discovery. She took pictures of DNA and discovered that there were 2 forms of it, an A form and a B form. The B form photograph taken by Franklin then became a vital piece of evidence toward the discovery of DNA. That photograph then became known as Photograph 51. Watson and Crick gained access to Franklin's Photo 51, the clearest image of DNA yet, without her permission as it was critical to the correct solution. With this vital evidence, Francis and Crick were then able to deduce the 3-dimensional double helical structure of DNA. On February 28, 1953, in the Eagle pub, James Watson and Francis Crick first spoke publicly about the discovery of the structure of DNA, but more formally, they first published their findings in Nature magazine on the 25th of April, 1953. Watson and Crick were not the discoverers of the structure of DNA, but rather the first scientists to formulate an accurate description of this molecule's complex double helical structure. The Nobel Prize of Physiology or Medicine in 1962 was awarded jointly to Francis Crick, James Watson and Maurice Wilkins for their discoveries concerning the molecular structure of nucleic acids and its significance for information transfer in living material. However, this prize was not awarded to Rosalind Franklin. Their reasoning: she passed away from cancer in 1958 and the Nobel Prize cannot be awarded after death. If she would have received the Nobel Prize with Crick, Wilkins and Watson in 1962, if she were alive, is something. To this day, we still don't know. Yet we know communication is key in developing effective science.